What if it's all a case of bad education? Are you really being tested? With the upcoming full moon partial eclipse in Pisces this week, prior to the equinox, it can certainly appear that way, as we are encouraged to look at areas that may need greater support and balance. By acknowledging what we know, based on our experiences, have they supported our own creative curriculum or become the foundation of bad education? Anything can happen. I preferred that. The song going around in my mind over the weekend for this full moon blog. A tune that could coincide nicely with the Monday's Musings weekly energy report that I just recorded. Or the less optimistic but ever hopeful I should be so lucky theme occasionally making itself heard from within. At a push, the sound of silence. I could work with that in relation to the astrological events around me, linking it to this week's newsletter and the application of self-care. Instead, no matter how much I tried to avoid it, I've returned full circle to something I had a hint of a few weeks back. The lessons, painful teachers, obvious correlations to the lyrics of yet another brick in the wall. Having planned to write about all the expansive ways I've created through intuitive, soulful synchronicity, I realise now, with my husband returning from visiting his terminal father, I have inadvertently delayed the inevitable. Sure, my procrastination has resulted in a deeper awareness, embodiment even of the energies available leading into the equinox. But my inability to trust what I know, from songs to cycles, has led to, well, a brick in my own creative wall, potentially, offering the opportunity to rebuild based on what I may be avoiding. The truth that I do not know completely what is going to happen, that no amount of preparation can predict enough outcomes to provide the safety that my inner child seeks. In exposing this naively perceived weakness, I can in fact release any control, particularly from my over-analytical, obsessive mind. I can observe the humour of sarcasm of my own shadow for the treasure that this brings, ultimately re-educating myself on who I am, releasing any judgments or wrongs I may feel behind my desire to repeat and seek information that is either no longer relevant or needed, pulling down any restrictions to the calm knowing now is the time to leave behind a world that no longer sustains me in the examinations of lessons I've outgrown. Something we are all being provided in potential during what may currently feel like an uncomfortable transitionary period. An opportunity to revise, leading into the harvest full moon found in the zodiac of Pisces, forming a partial lunar eclipse. We are facing the polarity of a deceptively warm light that can no longer nurture us. As the whispers of winter become ever louder, not only in our environment, but the insights we are ready to move on from, through their embodiment. Recognizing, like the seasons, we can never prepare for darkness, our own included. Born from fear and doubts regarding our ability, it is only in reaping the skills we have developed so far we seed from the potential of our higher or future adult selves. Until they are utilised, any tests of endurance, answers sought, or examinations longed for are merely creative curriculum from a source that doesn't always have our best interests at heart. A wounded, analytical, for some traumatised teacher that determines our worth based on statistical productivity over individual beauty. Ironically, in the right circumstances, this challenges us emotionally to confidently embrace our heightened complexities and sensitivities, rather than tap out or punish them. Highlighting where we may have avoided our authenticity, especially through more spiritual or evasive actions, and heroic, hierarchical idolization. Under the influence of its ruler Neptune, beneath what can feel like murky waters of our psyche, resides a much needed deeper education of inner tuition, returning us to what we may not have necessarily liked, yet somehow always known. There is no blocking emotions. One way or another, they will rise as the very bricks and mortar of who we are and what we came here to do. Only by accrediting any inner discord can we sense into what is happening and why. From this space, we may find ourselves creating a more expansive, standardized group mentality. As areas of repetition become clearer for the beliefs and mistrust we have not only in others, but more accurately ourselves. With the veil currently thinning as we prepare for the equinox, the 10-10 portal, and of course it's our wane, we are being encouraged to separate from the old ways of doing things, initiating more innovative, encompassing achievements to ensure we are of service to all, a notion we are not to be excluded from. Of course, this may cause behavioural changes, and any discussions needed are best left suspended until after the eclipse has occurred. As we remember, doubt signifies shifts, along with fears, for the reviews undertaken in our current circumstances. Taking the responsibility of providing a safe learning environment, then, for this alertness to become more physical in the changes of our own awareness. With the sun in Virgo, it is in the grounded structures and routines any motivation and determination can be found, meaning, in fact, anything can be possible depending on our own view of the world. The area needing the most harmonizing this week as we assess our relationship with our ultimate caregiver, be that Pachamama, Great Spirit, ourselves, or God, in whatever form this may take. Only through deep reflection of our own connection to these higher energies can we heal with soul wisdom. Culminating and releasing any barriers to our deepest emotional potential in this empathic cleansing, any creative pursuits are likely to be surrendered for the joy and innocence they once came to us as. From the 22nd onwards, with the sun entering Libra and the equinox, how we relate to others and appreciate different perspectives will take a more foundational priority, encouraging us to walk away from anything that no longer aligns with our inner vision, hopes, and dreams. In socializing, negotiating, and opening ourselves up to any potential conflicts regarding cooperations or partnerships, we are reminded not to avoid imbalances, but always see them as a means or test to an end, empowering a return to our own alignment. With Venus also entering Scorpio, we can expect an increase of love, passion, and transformation, particularly in the darker or taboo areas of our relationships. Honoring the yearning for a deeper, less superficial interaction based upon our ability to embrace the necessary vulnerability and hidden dynamics of our own emotional honesty. By the 26th, with Mercury also in Libra, all communications will not only enhance thoughtful dialogue, but resolve any disagreements that may have, until this point, seemed insurmountable. Provided, of course, we can weigh up the options, remain true to our values, and seek compromise beyond a complacent, at times fearful need to find peace at all costs. Known as the corn moon, orange or red in colour, this lunation is supportive of positivity, passion, and possibilities, much like the situations we find ourselves in, despite how it or they may look. If we can recognise they must work for all involved. In looking at any creative benchmarks through a more imaginative perspective and concentrating on what we love, there is the potential to release old mindsets, beliefs, and emotions, particularly of a more ancestral nature, by moving towards a new ideology, chartering us all with great healing potential through the baseline vastness of our own interconnection and inner mysticism, supporting us to explore the very notion of consciousness for the unique compilation of frequencies within us all. Self-care will be paramount, something that will become ever more evident for the necessity rather than luxury it is over the next decade, because a global pandemic of dis-ease and loss obviously wasn't enough. Alongside boundaries, if we are to build upon a foundation of inner peace. Lessons may well be renewed to empower us to make any additional changes that we seek, becoming more manageable with an exterior connection to Saturn, as we expect diligence and timely planning to suddenly take centre stage, from now until February 2027, when this eclipse cycle ends. In assessing our personal habits and triggers, we can find the emotional well-being now required, particularly when sensing turmoil between our dreams and the steps needed to achieve them. Known to swell the heart and mind, protection is key, be it our ideas, our energy, or the inner child waiting to be held within us all over the coming weeks. Something that could be heightened as Mercury and Saturn face off in the presence of domineering, bullying personalities, often as a reflection of our own, reminding us to lay as many issues to rest while we still have the chance, by agreeing to disagree. If we can observe the completion of many cycles, support an unresolved business, and release what is no longer true, this Pisces full moon can bring forth a much greater awareness in how easily we let go. Trust not only divine timing, but our own sovereignty. With Pluto in Capricorn for the whole month expressing shadows within institutions and the instability of them within outgrown social paradigms, we must realize the expectations are what demands the greatest change. Only then can we mark our own integrity and restructure our personal life to support the inner transformations needed. With Mars also leaving Gemini, and moving into Cancer, this triple adjustment of planets in the energy of water takes us on a deeper dive through our own emotional awareness, or into me I see, that will provide the trough for all other relationships. If we can surrender to life's curriculum-based measurements, allowing any transitions and endings to unfold, we are able to create the class and room needed for any new beginnings in the more physical yearnings now coming to light. With the grand trine between Uranus, the Sun, and Pluto all in Earth signs, now is the time to level that up and to get serious. Feeling rather than thinking the experiences we have gained for the ultimate, often under average stage of manifestation that it is. Square Jupiter, regardless how it may seem, we are ready to embrace the changes, to pass the initial prompts and shoves towards making any improvements by looking at our needs and wants and balancing them into our daily functions for the recess that this will bring, rather than keep them stationary, held within our own imagination case of underachieved desires. We may find ourselves, like the moon herself, temporarily in the dark in order to see other areas of our life, which have until now gone unnoticed for the skills that they bring to the table. What is obvious throughout, however, is the ultimate shift in power occurring, not only in the public image, but our own lives, particularly in relation to 2008, 2016, and the last few months of 1997. The question is, can we enroll with the shifts, transforming collectively by balancing control and surrender with service and sacrifice? Are we able to revamp these areas in our lives, providing multiple choice answers as needed, correcting ourselves in areas that may catalyze us by developing into the wisdom that we've gained? Or will it remain knowledge, learning that is placed upon a shelf within that we call out when evaluating and judging the behaviours of others? Occurring on the 18th of September in the UK at 3:36 a.m., found in the third decan. Numerically, we have an assembly of energies that include strength, the moon, hermit, justice, the empress, lovers, hanged man, and the high priestess overall, alongside the 10 of cups in the tarot, suggesting ironically a time of exceptional creativity, recognition of talents, fulfillment of deepest desires, and the manifestation of dreams, provided, of course, we can trust the process. Moving on from any artistic temperament and infantile rages by supporting the unresolved childhood trauma behind them. May we all graduate from the idea of right and wrongdoing towards a more acceptable version of learning, empathically grading any remembrance of who we are as a lifelong student of the universe. In deepest munay, I ask you again, are you really being tested? You know where I am. Take care. Kirsty.